We're back in the First Global Revolution, and we are now beginning Chapter 8, Governance and the Capacity to Govern. The complex of problems that we have described leads to the question as to how they are to be mastered through policies that take full account of their mutual impacts. Are the traditional political, institutional, and administrative systems capable of facing up to such a situation? Knowing how to make the right decisions in full knowledge of the facts and then implementing them in time is no easy matter. Yet it is a fundamental element of the problematique. The deficiencies of governance are at the root of many of the strands of the problematique, and hence improved governance is an essential aspect of the resolutique. In this chapter, we shall examine the origins of some of the problems of governance, its new dimensions, and the adequacy of its present responses. We shall also make some suggestions as to changes which might contribute to the resolutique. We use the term governance to denote the command mechanism of a social system and its actions that endeavors to provide security, prosperity, coherence, order, and continuity to the system. It necessarily embraces the ideology of the system, which may democratic or may not authoritarian define means for effective consideration of the public will and accountability of those in authority. It also includes the structure of government of the system, its policies and procedures. Some might say cynically that governance is the means to provide a stable equilibrium between the various centers of power. Taken broadly, the concept of governance should not be restricted to the national and international systems, but should be used in relation to regional, provincial, and local governments, as well to other social systems such as education and the military, to private enterprises, and even to the microcosm of the family. It attempts to apply at least the semblance of rationality to the irrational, subjective, and often contradictory behavior of politicians, economists, and the rest of us. It is unwise to overgeneralize on governability. Different countries have different approaches as well as different problems. Nevertheless, predominantly Western ideas have stimulated economic growth and material progress in a larger part of the world and have brought with them Western structures and concepts now generally accepted, although with many variations and diversely interpreted. The idea of governance is not new. Its main core components go back at least 5,000 years and probably much longer. We have already underscored the mismanagement of the world, evidence of which is all around us. Oceans of misery and poverty, the arms trade, crippling indebtedness in the developing world, huge annual deficits in the United States with a national debt of some US $3 trillion, rampant speculation, corruption, and violence. Have we to conclude that the world is impossible to govern? Are our governors incompetent or ill-chosen? These are doubts which public opinion and citizens are raising, probably much more incisively than the politicians themselves. We have to ask ourselves three basic questions. Do we, at the end of the century, properly understand our world? Or are our concepts and approaches no longer adapted to meet the complex and dangerous situation we face? Why, in spite of growing concern over several decades and innumerable international debates and many constructive proposals, have action and practical results been so limited? What suggestions can be made now to improve the effectiveness of the processes which should convert widespread concern into practical action? The dangers of ineffective governance are present at three different levels. At the level of the individual and the family, which we have discussed under the human malaise, at the level of the national, and of the level of international political systems. New dimensions of the problem of governance. Since the end of the Second War, the activities of governments have extended enormously. At the same time, many of the areas under their jurisdiction demand highly specialized technical understanding. We must therefore stress how much the complexity of national and international systems has grown. As Andre Danson puts it, this sudden rise in complexity has thrown us out of a social system that was accessible to logic and thrust us into a social organization dominated by cybernetic reactions. In a very complex environment with instabilities and imbalances, as is the situation of humankind today, the feedback systems are so numerous and so intertwined that it is difficult to design them within a comprehensive model. It is even less possible to grasp such systems through common sense and intuition, or even draw up an approximate mental image of them. The solution of problems within the complex system is therefore difficult, all the more so because in many cases public acceptance of solutions is unlikely to be achieved. From what then is this growth of complexity derived? We mentioned a few of the factors operating on both the national and international levels. The increased speed of changes, technical, economic, and demographic. The increase in number of actors in the systems to be governed, whether a big city, a country, the vast areas of the South, or humankind as a whole. The increase in the number of sovereign states playing an active role in any given international system. The intensity of interdependence between national societies over a wide range of matters such as transfer of knowledge, periodic or permanent migratory flows, cultural influences, and economic exchange. The coming into contact of heterogeneous societies differing in their cultures, their values, their political traditions, and their standards of living. The erosion of national sovereignty, in the words of Sued Yadmoko. In the process of interdependence, we have all become vulnerable. Our societies are permeable to decisions taken elsewhere in the world. The dynamics of interdependence might be better understood if we think of the globe not in terms of a map of nations, but as a meteorological map, where weather systems swirl independently of any national boundaries, and low and high fronts create new climatic conditions far ahead of them, and we'll continue in the next video.